This is a cinema lens. You can have a look at focus pooling. So from the background to the character and back. Let's have a look at it. You don't see any change in the size of the character or the background. But in photographic lenses, in less expensive lenses like that, like Canon, have a look. Things start to like breathe. They become larger and smaller. So this is called lens breathing. Professional lenses don't have the minimum amount of lens breathing. They are sharper, they are heavier, they are declicked. What does it mean? When you change the aperture in normal lenses, it clicks. You jump from 4 to 5.6 or to 8. But in cinema lenses, there is a smooth transition between the aperture. They are almost the same size and they have PL mounts. Okay, what is a good camera? First of all, build quality. You probably have seen this video. Let me find it. Nikon D3 crash test. This guy is just crazy. He wants to push the limits of testing this camera. So this is a very well built camera with a very good quality. Build quality, actually. It is weather sealed, it is dust proof. So it's not just that. So what if it falls inside mud? Well, it is too soft. Why not on a hard surface? Oh, God damn. It's a $6,000 piece of. Still not enough. What about leaving it on your car and forget to take it, and then?
I'm gonna guess don't do that.
It's not enough. Still not enough. Still works.
That's a good camera
And this is brutal. Put it in fridge.
Surely that has got to kill it.
Let it dry out. Put the camera back. Put the battery back.
Take the battery out.
Still works. And this is just crazy. Set the camera on fire.
No! This is hurting your brain. Oh, you got it.
Still works. So build quality is the first thing that you consider about buying a camera. Weather sealed, dust proof, and then from now on, whatever you rent or borrow or buy should be manual. Because you are going to adjust the exposure by yourself. The shutter speed, the white balance, aperture, everything should be controlled by you, not by the camera processor. So build quality, um, manual control, and frame and sensor size. Um, making a large format, a full frame. This is the size of a full frame sensor. Making a full frame sensor, digital sensor, is expensive. That's why in early cameras that you see that the sensor size is too small, 1/3 or 2/3, and you see that the camera makers try to push you to a smaller sensor sizes. They say that this is good, this is better. Don't be fooled. The larger the better. And then the native ISO. Native ISO, what does it mean? For example, the camera that I have shown you, Alexa, where are you? This camera has a native ISO of 800. It means that anything about, if you push the ISO to go to something above 800, you are introducing noise and grain to the camera. But a camera like Sony A7S, this one has a higher native ISO. They claim that it has a native ISO of 6400. It means that this camera can literally see in the dark. So here, this is what the eye sees in the darkness, a human eye sees. And this is what this camera sees at 25,600 ISO. This is an insane ISO. This is an insane sensitivity of the camera, and it's still usable. Still you can use it. There's not too much noise in it. The other thing is a professional camera is able to shoot in RAW format. What is a RAW format? The picture out of a professional camera like Alexa, like this camera, the picture out of this camera looks like this. Very dull, flat, and very creamy. Why? And then you have to pull out a beautiful image out of it in color grading. Why? What is the reason? The reason is the dynamic range, the latitude. These cameras, the concept of the latitude or dynamic range means here we are comparing to Blackmagic cinema camera and ARRI camera. Let me show you what is a Blackmagic cinema camera. This one. This is also a cinema camera, but based on this chart you can see that from some point the camera cannot differentiate between different levels of darkness. But Alexa can see through the darkness and can see the details inside the darkness. So the more details, the wider the latitude, the wider the dynamic range. So a camera with let's say wide dynamic range, let's say 13 stop dynamic range, is a camera that is able to record the details in the brightness and darkness all together. So that's why the picture out of these cameras, a raw picture, looks like this, and then you have to pull out, but it contains all the color information in it, and then you have to pull out a nice picture out of it in color grading. AF point, autofocus points. The more, the better. What is it? Autofocus points. The camera sends infrared light to a moving subject, and then receives back the light, and then tries to focus on the subject automatically. So some new cameras, let's say you A30 6300 autofocus. Okay, this is a new camera that has a very good autofocusing technology. It has 425 AF points. It means that the camera can track and can focus on a moving subject very efficiently. Uh, Here, look at the background. The background gets blurred, but the car still is in focus. That's the beauty of autofocusing. In cinema, the cinematographer has at least two or three assistants. One of them is responsible for focus polling. So the guy just changes the focus based on the moving subject. So if you would be able to do it automatically inside the camera, that's better. So one very beautiful thing about the new cameras, do you know what is gyro? Have you heard of gyro? Yes. What is gyro?
It's really hard to describe. I can't really explain it, but I sort of know what it is.
We have gyro in our ears. That's responsible for the balance. That's why when you rotate your head, the image in front of you doesn't rotate. But when you rotate the camera, it rotates. Because there is a gyro balance inside our ears, and it signals to the brain. And so when you rotate your head, the same technology comes to the camera. Some cameras have in-camera stabilization. So let me show you some in-camera stabilization. Do you remember that some of your shots were shaky, and then we applied a filter, and then the shakiness just gone? This is the same structure, but much faster. Imagine that a hardware would be able to remove the shakiness of the camera in real time. So see the camera is shaking, but the image not. So this is the in-camera stabilization. So as I told you, every digital camera has a processor inside it. So the faster the processor, the better. Some camera that are enhanced for sports, for shooting sports, they have two processors inside instead of one. And this is the terrible thing in any DSLR camera, rolling shutter artifact. It is rolling shutter artifact. What is it? Rolling shutter artifact is because the CMOS the CMOS sensor, we call the camera sensor CMOS. It reads the picture line by line. But the celluloid film camera in celluloid film, like these type of cameras, the film is exposed to the light suddenly. So all the image is exposed at one time. But in CMOS, it reads the image line by line. If you're a photographer, that's fine. But if you're a cinematographer, That's the first thing that you should consider when you review a camera. So let me show you, and it's simple to adjust to measure the rolling shutter artifact of your camera. Let me find something. Rolling. Oh, here it is. You remember that we talked about a camera A7S. It was a very nice camera in terms of low light performance. But is it a good camera for shooting action scenes like a chase? You just need to move your camera in front of some vertical lines. You see that suddenly the picture becomes like jelly. That's why we call it Jello effect as well. That's why when your image shakes, it wobbles and becomes so jelly. This is terrible when you are going to make a movie. If your camera is static, your movie doesn't have too much motions in it, that's fine. But if it is a action, it has moving cameras and action shots and too much motions in it, then you have to think about. Look at here. This is GH4. This is a very common camera for indie filmmaking, for independent filmmaking. You see that this camera is definitely much better for shooting a movie in terms of rolling shutter artifact. The rolling shutter is less visible here. Okay, and the resolution these days, if you are going to buy a camera, just buy a camera that is at least 4K. These days the cameras, or most of them, are 4K, so no more HD. But don't be fooled with pixel count. A picture in this size, in the size of my hands, is just about 13 megapixel. If you are going to print a picture at the size of this wall, a billboard, then you need a camera that is 36 megapixel or 50 megapixels. So don't be fooled by the megapixels. So, but the frame size is good for filmmaking, but pixel count doesn't matter. And remote access to your camera. Some new cameras, you can control them by your cell phone. So if you want to shoot a time lapse, that's a good option to have in it. Or if you are shooting video, some video cameras has wireless transmitters. And then shooting HDR. This picture is impossible to take in a normal camera, because if you expose the tree, the sky would be white. If you expose the sky, the tree would be dark, would be black. But some cameras can expose both tree and the sky at the same time and then merge them together and create a high dynamic range HDR photography. High dynamic range, or HDR photography. So if your camera is able to shoot HDR, that's great.